Ladies and gentlemen, discipline doesn't begin with what you do. It begins with how you think. Every action you take in life is a reflection of your mindset. If your mind is chaotic, distracted, and filled with excuses, your actions will mirror that chaos. But if your mind is focused, intentional, and anchored in clarity, discipline becomes second nature. The battle for consistency and self-control is always won or lost in your thoughts before it ever shows up in your behavior. To master your actions, you must first master the environment inside your head. Your mind is like fertile soil. Whatever seeds you plant there will grow. If you plant doubt, distraction, and negativity, your life will bear those fruits. But if you plant focus, determination, and belief, you'll begin to harvest the results of discipline. You can't force your body to act consistently if your mind is constantly sabotaging you with limiting beliefs. That's why mastering your mental world is the first and most crucial step in building unbreakable discipline. Most people fail to stay disciplined because they try to change their behavior without changing their thinking. They rely on willpower alone, but willpower is a limited resource. It fades with fatigue, emotion, and time. What lasts is mental conditioning. It's the practice of training your mind every single day to focus on what matters most. Just as you would train your muscles in the gym, you must train your thoughts to obey your goals. The moment your thoughts align with your purpose, your actions begin to follow effortlessly. One of the most powerful ways to master your mind is to take control of your focus. Where focus goes, energy flows. If you constantly focus on how hard something is, your brain will amplify that pain and make you want to quit. But if you focus on why it matters, on the reward, the growth, the long-term gain, your brain will generate the energy to keep going. Discipline is not about suppressing emotion. It's about redirecting emotion towards something meaningful. The mind you control will always serve you, but the mind you ignore will always control you. Emotional mastery is another critical part of mental discipline. Many people let their emotions dictate their actions. If they feel tired, they quit. If they feel bored, they procrastinate. If they feel afraid, they stop. But those who are truly disciplined understand that emotions are signals, not commands. You don't need to feel motivated to take action. You simply need to act, regardless of how you feel. When you act in alignment with your goals despite discomfort, you train your brain to operate from commitment instead of mood. That's the essence of mental strength. Education plays a huge role here because learning how your mind works gives you the tools to master it. Understanding psychology, habits, and human behavior allows you to recognize when your brain is trying to trick you into comfort. The brain's natural instinct is to avoid pain and seek pleasure. It wants safety, not growth. But discipline requires that you override that instinct. Growth always exists outside of comfort. When you understand that discomfort is a teacher and not a threat, your mindset begins to shift. You stop resisting challenge and start embracing it as part of your evolution. Mental discipline also means taking ownership of your internal dialogue. The words you say to yourself shape your identity. If you constantly say, "I can't stick to anything," or "I'm just not disciplined," your subconscious mind will make that true. But when you start saying, "I follow through," "I do what I say I'll do," "I'm the kind of person who shows up no matter what," you begin to reprogram your beliefs. Over time, your identity changes, and when your identity changes, your actions naturally follow. You don't have to force discipline when it's part of who you are. Another key aspect of mastering your mind is learning how to manage distractions. In today's world, your attention is under constant attack. Social media, notifications, entertainment, endless noise. Every distraction weakens your focus and drains your energy. The disciplined mind learns to filter out what doesn't serve the goal. That means setting boundaries with your time, your environment, and even your relationships. The ability to say no is a sign of strength, not weakness. Every no to distraction is a yes to your purpose. Finally, mastering your mind requires consistency. Just like physical training, mental strength grows through repetition. You can't meditate once, journal once, or visualize your goals once and expect lasting change. You must show up for your mind every single day, feed it positive input, challenge your limiting beliefs, reflect on your progress, build rituals that reinforce clarity and confidence. Over time, your thoughts will become disciplined, and when your thoughts are disciplined, your life becomes unstoppable. When you reach that point, discipline is no longer something you struggle to maintain. It becomes who you are. You no longer need to fight against your mind because it works for you, not against you. Your focus sharpens. Your emotions stabilize, your actions become consistent. And that's when you discover the real secret of success. Once you master your mind, you master everything else. Discipline without purpose is like running on a treadmill. You're moving, but you're not going anywhere. True discipline doesn't come from forcing yourself to act. It comes from connecting your actions to something meaningful. When your goals are fueled by a powerful purpose, consistency becomes natural. You no longer need to push yourself every day. Your purpose pulls you forward. Purpose gives meaning to pain, structure to chaos, and energy to persistence. It transforms "I have to" into "I want to." Every human being is driven by a sense of identity, a deep, often unconscious belief about who they are and what they stand for. Identity shapes behavior more powerfully than motivation or reward. If your identity is built around comfort, you'll always choose the easy path. But if your identity is built around growth, you'll lean into challenges because that's who you are. The most disciplined people in the world don't rely on momentary motivation. They rely on who they believe themselves to be. They act in alignment with their identity. This is why purpose and identity are inseparable. Your purpose tells you why you do what you do, and your identity tells you who you must become to achieve it. When these two forces align, discipline turns into destiny. You don't wake up asking, "Should I work on my goals today?" You simply do, because that's consistent with who you are. The moment your purpose becomes part of your self-concept, your behavior naturally follows. Think about someone who identifies as an athlete. They don't ask themselves if they should train. It's part of their daily life. It's in their identity. Or a teacher. They don't have to force themselves to educate others. It's who they are. The same principle applies to discipline. When you internalize the belief that "I am a disciplined person," every action begins to align with that truth. But when your identity is unclear, every obstacle feels heavy. You start to rely on external motivation, quotes, videos, pep talks, and when those fade, so does your effort. Purpose and identity, however, create internal motivation. That's what lasts. To build this inner strength, you must define your purpose clearly. Purpose doesn't need to be grand or complicated. It just needs to be deeply personal. It could be the desire to provide for your family, to improve yourself, to make a difference, or to fulfill your potential. What matters is that it resonates emotionally. Emotion is the fuel of discipline. The stronger your emotional connection to your purpose, the more energy you have to keep going, even when you're tired, stressed, or uncertain. Ask yourself powerful questions. Why does this goal matter to me? What will my life look like if I stay disciplined? Who will I become if I don't quit? These questions shift your mind from surface-level effort to deep internal drive. The brain is wired to conserve energy and avoid pain, but when your purpose feels more powerful than your discomfort, your mind reprograms itself. It starts associating pleasure with progress, not with procrastination. That's how sustainable discipline is built, by linking your daily actions to a purpose that feels meaningful. Identity development comes next. Your identity isn't fixed. It's built by the stories you tell yourself and the standards you choose to live by. If you've always told yourself you're lazy or inconsistent, you've built an identity that limits you. But the moment you decide to rewrite that story, everything changes. You can begin by stating, "I'm the kind of person who follows through. then you act in alignment with that statement. Every time you keep a promise to yourself, no matter how small, you reinforce that identity. Over time, your self-image transforms and discipline becomes effortless because you're simply being you. In educational terms, this process is known as identity-based learning. It means aligning your habits and actions with the identity you want to embody. You're not just learning new behaviors, you're becoming a new person. Every disciplined act is a vote for the type of person you want to be. One skipped task doesn't destroy your identity, but consistency strengthens it. That's why small, repeated actions matter. They build the foundation for who you are becoming. Purpose and identity also provide resilience during failure. When you're only chasing results, setbacks feel devastating, but when you're driven by purpose, failure becomes part of the process. You understand that every challenge refines your character. You learn from mistakes rather than being defined by them. You stop saying, "I failed," and start saying, "I'm learning." Purpose turns failure into feedback. It transforms temporary defeat into long-term development. Ultimately, the power of purpose and identity lies in integration. You can read all the motivational books and attend all the seminars in the world, but if your actions aren't aligned with a strong sense of purpose and identity, discipline will always feel like a struggle. Once you know who you are and why you're doing it, there's no room for hesitation. You move with conviction. You show up with consistency. You persist with passion. Discipline at its highest level is not about control, it's about alignment. When your identity and purpose are aligned, discipline feels natural, not forced. You no longer need to fight against yourself because your values, your goals, and your actions are in harmony. You become unstoppable, not because life gets easier, but because your reason for doing it is stronger than any excuse that could stop you. That's the true power of purpose and identity. Discipline doesn't rely on willpower alone, it thrives on structure. If you depend only on motivation to get things done, you'll always struggle because motivation is temporary. It fluctuates with your emotions, environment, and energy levels. But systems, on the other hand, create stability. Systems turn discipline from something you fight for into something that flows naturally. When you build a structure that supports your goals, you eliminate the need for constant decision-making and remove the friction that leads to procrastination. Every successful person you admire, whether an athlete, entrepreneur, artist, or leader, has one thing in common: they've built systems that make success automatic. They don't rely on remembering, hoping, or forcing themselves to do the right thing. Their daily routines, habits, and environments are designed to make discipline easy and excuses hard. Systems are the bridge between goals and results. Without them, even the strongest intention eventually fades. A system is any process or pattern that helps you repeat success consistently. For example, if your goal is to improve your health, a system might be preparing your meals every Sunday, setting specific workout times, and tracking your progress daily. If your goal is to grow intellectually, a system could be reading 20 pages a day, reflecting in a journal, and discussing what you learn weekly. The system creates predictability. It ensures that action happens regardless of mood or circumstance. In psychology, this approach is tied to habit formation. Habits are the foundation of discipline because they reduce the mental load of decision-making. Every time you act on habit, you save energy for higher-level thinking. That's why creating systems means building routines that support your long-term success. You decide once, then let the system carry the weight. This is how you convert willpower into automation. Think of your system as your discipline infrastructure. It starts with your environment. The spaces you live and work in should encourage productivity, not distraction. If your goal is to focus, remove temptations, turn off notifications, clean your workspace, keep tools ready for action. You cannot expect strong discipline in a weak environment. Your surroundings either support your focus or sabotage it. Every disciplined person understands that success isn't just about internal strength. It's about designing external systems that make the right choice the easy choice. The next part of a powerful system is scheduling. Many people say they don't have time, but the truth is they don't have a structure for their time. Time unmanaged becomes the enemy of discipline. A clear schedule is your greatest weapon against chaos. When you allocate time for important tasks, not just when you feel like it, you create commitment. Scheduling builds rhythm, and rhythm creates momentum. Once you develop that flow, consistency becomes almost effortless. Accountability is another essential part of your system. Discipline grows stronger when it's supported by others. Whether it's a mentor, coach, or peer, having someone who holds you accountable multiplies your consistency. This is not about control, it's about community. When you share your goals, report your progress, and accept feedback, you reinforce your own commitment. External accountability keeps internal discipline alive, especially during difficult times. Tracking and measuring progress also strengthen your system. What gets measured gets managed. When you track your actions, you build awareness, and awareness creates control. Seeing your growth over time fuels motivation and gives you proof that your discipline is working. Even small progress, when recognized, builds momentum. Systems that include tracking are self-correcting. They reveal where you're falling short and guide you back on track before bad habits can take root. Education plays a role here too, because understanding behavioral science helps you design better systems. For instance, the cue routine reward model explains how habits are built. Every habit begins with a cue, a trigger, followed by a routine, the behavior, and then a reward, the benefit. To create lasting discipline, you must intentionally design this loop. You can set cues that remind you to act, such as setting an alarm, leaving your workout clothes by the bed, or keeping your planner visible. You then perform the routine, and you reward yourself with satisfaction, recognition, or rest. Over time, this loop becomes automatic. Your brain associates positive emotion with disciplined behavior. Building systems also requires adaptability. A rigid plan will eventually fail because life changes. Systems must evolve with your goals, responsibilities, and environment. The key is not perfection, it's persistence. Review your systems regularly. Identify what works and what doesn't. Remove unnecessary complexity. Simplicity is strength. The best systems are those you can maintain even when life gets busy or unpredictable. Finally, the purpose of systems is not to trap you but to free you. When your daily structure supports your growth, you experience less stress and more focus. You don't waste energy debating what to do, you just do it. The system holds you accountable, builds momentum, and preserves your energy for creativity, learning, and progress. True freedom comes from discipline, and discipline becomes easy when systems carry the load. So remember, the difference between people who dream and those who achieve lies not in their talent, but in their structure. Anyone can feel inspired for a day, but those who win in the long run are those who have built systems that make success a habit. Build the right systems, and consistency will no longer be a struggle. It will become your natural rhythm, the unshakable foundation of everything you achieve. Discipline becomes unbreakable only when it stops being something you do and starts being something you are. Many people treat discipline like a temporary project, something they use to achieve a short-term goal, then abandon once the goal is reached. But true, lasting transformation happens when discipline becomes part of your identity and lifestyle. It's not about forcing yourself every day. It's about creating a life where the disciplined choice feels natural, even automatic. When discipline becomes your way of living, it shapes not just what you achieve, but who you become. To turn discipline into a lifestyle, you must first understand that it's not a destination, it's a daily practice. It's not about perfection or rigidity, but about consistency and balance. Discipline isn't punishment, it's self-respect. It's the act of honoring your commitments, keeping your word to yourself, and living in alignment with your values. When you start viewing discipline as a form of self-love rather than self-control, everything changes. You stop resisting it because you realize it's the foundation of freedom, the freedom to create, grow, and live on your own terms. Turning discipline into a lifestyle starts with creating rituals, not rules. Rules are external and restrictive. Rituals are internal and empowering. A rule says, I have to do this. A ritual says, this is what I do because it defines who I am. Rituals carry emotion, meaning, and rhythm. They transform daily actions into sacred commitments. For example, waking up early isn't just about productivity. It can be a ritual of peace and preparation. Exercising isn't just about fitness. It can be a ritual of honoring your body. Reading daily isn't just about learning. It can be a ritual of nurturing your mind. When your routines carry meaning, discipline stops feeling like effort and starts feeling like alignment. Education plays a major role here. Understanding the science of behavior and habit helps you maintain discipline for life. Research in neuroscience shows that habits are formed through repetition and reinforcement. Every time you follow through on a commitment, you strengthen neural pathways that make that action easier next time. This process, called neuroplasticity, literally rewires your brain for success. Over time, what once felt difficult becomes natural. The key is consistency. Showing up daily, even in small ways, builds the momentum that eventually defines your lifestyle. Environment is another crucial element. You cannot sustain a disciplined lifestyle in an environment that encourages distraction, negativity, or chaos. Your surroundings shape your energy and your behavior more than willpower ever can. That's why people who thrive often design their environment for success. They keep reminders of their goals visible, surround themselves with growth-minded people, and remove triggers that lead to procrastination. When your environment supports your values, discipline feels effortless because your external world mirrors your internal goals. Another aspect of living a disciplined life is learning to rest intentionally. Many people burn out because they confuse discipline with non-stop action. But true discipline includes rest, recovery, and reflection. You can't perform at your best if you're constantly running on empty. Just as muscles grow during rest after training, mental and emotional growth also happen during reflection and recovery. A disciplined lifestyle is balanced. It honors both effort and restoration. When you schedule time to recharge, you actually sustain your consistency for the long term. Mindset also plays a foundational role in making discipline permanent. People with a growth mindset understand that discipline is a journey, not an on/off switch. They accept setbacks as part of the process rather than as failure. When you miss a day, make a mistake, or fall short, the key is to reset, not to quit. Discipline as a lifestyle means resilience, the ability to return to your path again and again, stronger each time. You stop judging yourself for imperfection and instead focus on progress. That's how lasting habits are built, through persistence, not perfection. Purpose continues to fuel this process. When your disciplined actions align with your deeper purpose, they become sustainable. You're no longer chasing goals for validation. You're living out your mission. That purpose-driven discipline radiates into every area of your life, your relationships, your health, your career, your mindset. It creates coherence between your values and your daily behavior. And once you feel that alignment, discipline doesn't feel like something extra. It feels like the only natural way to live. Accountability and contribution are also essential for maintaining a disciplined lifestyle. When you share your journey with others, mentor someone, or give back to your community, you reinforce your own growth. Teaching discipline strengthens it within you. Contribution gives your habits a greater sense of purpose. It transforms personal discipline into collective impact. You start to realize that your consistency doesn't just change your life. It inspires others to change theirs. That responsibility fuels an even deeper level of commitment. Ultimately, turning discipline into a lifestyle means living intentionally. It's about designing your days, your thoughts, and your actions around what truly matters. It's about becoming the kind of person who doesn't need to be pushed because you're pulled by vision, identity, and purpose. You don't negotiate with your goals because your habits reflect your standards. You don't need external pressure because you've built internal strength. Discipline becomes your rhythm, your quiet confidence, your foundation. When you live this way, success stops being a pursuit and becomes a byproduct. You no longer chase results. Results come to you because your life is built on alignment and consistency. That's when you realize that discipline is not about control. It's about freedom, freedom from chaos, doubt, and regret. Freedom to create, lead, and live fully. Once discipline becomes your lifestyle, you're not just achieving goals, you're mastering yourself. And that mastery, that inner stability, is the true definition of unbreakable discipline.